if you are a woman, leave Islam. We spoke about this before. One of the tenets in Sharia law is Taqiyyah. You have to lie to people who are not Muslims to uphold Islam in how it looks in the world. You have to make sure that other people don't know the truth behind this religion. And the way you do that is by spreading false information so that more and more women can sign up to the bullshit, and then they find out later that they were lied to. So let's just get into it. Taqiyya, as you see on your screen, in Islam, Taqiyya is a dissimulation and secrecy of religious beliefs and practice. Generally, Taqiyya is regarded as the action of maintaining secrecy or mystifying one's belief. Hiding one's beliefs in non-Muslim nations has been practiced since the early days of Islam, and early Muslims used it to avoid torture or getting killed by non-Muslims and tyrants with authority. It used to be acknowledged by Muslims of virtually all persuasions. So let's just look at some Taqiyya in action, right? And one of the things, we have as a privilege in this life, things like Google. You can go right now and just Google any random question surrounding Islam, and every single response will be something positive. So for example, I just put in, are women forced to wear the hijab in Islam? And this is the answer. And remember, you have to keep Taqiyya in mind, because this is very important to get other women to fall into this religion. Women are not going to readily fall into a religion where it says, your husband can beat you, you're going to hell, and you have to be covered for the rest of your life. No, what happens is when you do see these young girls converting to Islam, they convert to Islam because at first, it's all a lie. It's all a lie. These men pretend that they respect these young girls. They love these young girls. Even Allah loves them. And then when they get into the bed of the religion, when it's too late, when they're married and they're, 5 or 4 kids in deep, then they see the truth of Islam. So the question is it haram, sin, to force someone to wear a hijab? And here's the beautiful answer that they give you on Google, right? The Quran directly states that religion should not be forced. Interesting. It also says, although hijab is highly encouraged in Islam, no one is allowed to be pressured into compliance. People who pressure others, even their children, may have good intentions. However, forcing and pressuring hijab only leads to a negative association with Islam. You think? Do you think? And this is why it's bullshit. So they pretty it up for the internet, because the internet is filled with people who are non-Muslims. And these individuals, these Muslim individuals, they have to lie to you. So we know that the hijab is forced. And the reason why this upsets me so much is because there are some women who will get into this religion and they'll write bullshit articles like this. It is important to understand that forcing hijab stems from the culture of the people and not from the religion itself. And we know that's bullshit. The religion is telling the people what to do. And in the religion, in the Quran, it says that women and girls, they should be covered as early as puberty. She then writes in 2022, the Iranian law forcing women to wear a head covering was brought to the forefront of Western media when a young girl was arrested and later found dead. The death brought international awareness to the way some countries take advantage of what the Quran says and use it to control women. More bullshit. The Quran clearly gives instructions on how women and girls are supposed to be treated. Period. It even says that FGM, female genital mutilation, is permitted. This is what Allah put in his book. Well, we know that it's not Allah. We know that it was Muhammad, who we said before in my last video, a bloody illiterate, couldn't read, and had someone else write what he wanted in his ridiculous book, right? These are all lies. And this is a woman writing this. This is not even a man writing this. And then it continues. It says the laws only apply to a woman's hijab. Men do not get prosecuted for observing their hijab. Right? This is hypocrisy, not Islam, and plays into the stereotype that Muslims are violent and oppressive. Unfortunately, these types of laws cause more misunderstandings and hatred to people whose only interaction with Islam is through the media. As Muslim women who observe the hijab, and she goes on to say, I was never forced or pressured to wear the Khmer head covering or dress modestly. My love for hijab came from learning about its beauty. I have complete control over parts of my body I choose to show people and what parts I choose to keep covered. My hijab liberates me, not oppresses me. You hear the bullshit? Do you hear the bullshit? Yeah, I just want you to see Taqiyya, in action. I just want you to see it in action because we're going to look at what it looks like when women do not wear the hijab. Because remember, this is a Muslim woman and she's saying, hey, you know, the hijab liberates me. I love wearing it and I have freedom to not wear it. If I don't want to wear it, I don't have to. This is what she's saying, right? Okay, keep that in mind. This is Marzia Ibrahimi. She was she was a 25-year-old midwife in Iran. She went to park her car, turned around, and a man threw acid in her face. I just want you to know that when this happened to her in Iran in 2014, she was wearing a hijab. She was wearing a hijab. And when I talk about this religion and what we're seeing now, especially now with the Taliban, these men do not want to even see the faces of women. So this is why this attack happened. This is a beautiful girl. She's still beautiful despite what happened to her, but this is the extreme. And all of this is permitted in the book that these people subscribe to, in the book that these men subscribe to, in the book that these men read daily and want to carry out to its entirety so that they can get their, 70-something virgins when they die. And that's what this is all about. They're not fanatics because they love Allah. They're not fanatics because Allah is taking care of them. No, Allah is not taking care of shit. The majority of them are migrants. They have to leave the place where they were born, the place where Allah told them to come into the world, and they have to go to other places to find sustenance. Why would they have to do that if Allah is so loving? Not in the Quran once does it says that Allah even loves these people. Not once. It just says, obey these commands and you may go to heaven one day. And in heaven, you get, what did I say before in the last video? You get 70-something virgins. You get shade because the desert is hot and it's sunny. So you're going to need shade in heaven. And then you get your rivers of beer, right? And you get other things. You get, I said this before, you get the eternal erection so that you can have sex with these 70 birds. And this is how you know that these men are not really that bright. Because if you read the Quran in its entirety, you know that the majority of the inhabitants of hell are women. So where are you going to get these 70-something virgins from for all of these men? Do you see how things don't really add up? Similar to them killing off of, all of the baby girls in India and then wondering why these men have no wives. Yeah, they have no wives because there's no girls for them to date. There's no girls for them to marry. So why doesn't this click with these people? It doesn't click because they're not that smart, right? They're not. They're not that smart and they hate women. And I just want you to look at your screen so that you can see what the inside of a hijab looks like. Look at your screen. Just look at it. Look at how visual or how limited that visualization of the world is. That's disgusting. It looks like they're in prison looking out through their veil. Can you see that? Look, you can't even see the sunshine. You can't see anything. And this is how much these men hate these women, but they don't want you to know that they hate them. The Quran, the holy book of Islam, indicates that both men and women are spiritually equal. Bullshit. And look what this person wrote. One common thread throughout Islam is the principle of equality or equity. Islam emphasizes that in the eyes of Allah Almighty, all people are equal. Bullshit. Even though they are not all identical to one another, there are differences in appearances, wealth, ambitions, abilities, and so on and so forth. However, none of these differences themselves can establish the status of the superiority of one person over another. More bullshit. And the reason why it's so important for you to to have scripture on hand is so that you can see things like this and know that it's a lie. Because when you talk about conversion and why some people convert to some religions, they only convert because they don't know what's in the writings. They don't know what the scripture says. They have no idea that the Quran says something totally opposite from what this person who wrote this article is saying. This is a lie, right? It says the Quran, the holy book of Islam, specifies that both men and women are spiritually equal. The Quran states, but those who do good, whether male or female, and have faith will enter paradise and will never be wronged, even as much as the speck of a date stone. But then, even though that's Quran 4:124, there's a whole other scripture that says, well, no, actually, women, they're going to hell more than the men are going to hell. And there's all of these inconsistencies and contradictions throughout the Quran. And if you don't study this shit, you will get into one scripture and think that that one scripture represents the entire Quran, and it doesn't. So what these people are doing, those people who are looking to convert more people to Islam, they're picking and choosing what they want for the reader to kind of embrace. And what they want for the reader to embrace, especially if the reader is a woman, is that this religion is respectable. This religion is wonderful for you. Allah loves you. The men will respect you. You get to wear a beautiful black garbage bag in the fucking heat, and everyone will just embrace you and love you so much. You'll have no problem. It's all bullshit. And to the men, especially these young boys, and I said this as well, it's so dangerous that these Muslim migrant men are going into these different countries with these young incel boys who are not getting laid, they don't have jobs, they're pissed off about things that no one can help them with. And what are they subscribing to? What are they converting to? They're converting to Islam in their anger. They're converting to Islam in their sexual frustration. They're converting to Islam because it looks like the religion where men are in power. And what these young boys are seeing is that, well, I can't get a girlfriend. I can't penetrate the dating market. I'm not having sex. This is not fair. So they all of them subscribe to this religion. All of them subscribe to this because it's very romantic to the male. Islam is a man's religion. If you are a woman, you should not be subscribing to this bullshit at all. If you're a man, I don't really give a shit. But if you're a woman, this is not for you. This is a man's religion for men by men, and you should let all of the men do whatever the hell that they want to do and stay clear away from it. And here's another thing that I've noticed when I spoke to Muslim women and we went back and forth on just debating and talking about the religion. Every Muslim woman that I met, her claim to fame or her claim in Islam is that, well, at least I don't have to work. I don't have to get up and work. My husband is the one who has to take care of me. He's the one who has to pay the mortgage and all of the bills, and any money that I make, I keep. And all of this other bullshit that surrounds them essentially just being fucking lazy. So you don't want to go out and make a living on your own. You would rather stay under a friggin' hijab. I'm not talking about the women in Afghanistan. I'm not talking about the women in Iran. I'm not talking about the women in Iraq. I'm talking about the women who bang hard for Islam and they're not living in a country where Islam is heavily enforced. Notice how that works. They bang hard all day about how much they love Allah and they love Islam and they just can't get enough of the Quran, but then they live in Texas. Then they live in Canada. Then they live in the UK. Then they live outside of Afghanistan where it's heavily practiced. They live outside. And then when those women see what's happening to the women in Afghanistan, they put their noses up and they say, well, you know, those are extremists. Those are people who follow the Quran to the T. What do you think all religions aspire to do, though, ma'am? All religions aspire to follow their religious text to a T, because the goal is salvation at the end. And this is why people mock Christians today, because Christians, even though they have a Bible, they don't really fucking follow it. Right? And so the Muslims who are living outside of places like Afghanistan, they don't really follow the Quran either. Ding, ding, ding. And this is why when you do see Muslim women who are not in Afghanistan, the full face is out. We have lashes on. We have fake nails. We have makeup, beat face galore. Right? And we have, you know, high heels on, and they're talking about how liberated they are, but you're not living in a place where Islam is heavily enforced. You're living in California with a hijab on, telling women how liberated you are. You're only liberated because you're protected by the government that you're currently living under. But then imagine this. These individuals, these same ladies will stand behind these idiot men that left places like Afghanistan and scream all day how they want Sharia law in the United States. They want Sharia law in the UK. They want Sharia law in Canada. You see the bullshit? It's just bullshit. So I'm going to read some more of what this idiot wrote. She wrote, and this is a selling point to young women. This is why a lot of young women convert to Islam. There's this flex of, I don't have to work. I can sit on my ass all day and just, you know, have babies and watch my children. And my husband is the one who has to go out and look for money. And a lot of them brag to the other women who are not doing that. And they make it seem as if, you know, look at me. I'm better because I don't have to work. Yeah, but you're stuck, because the minute that your husband decides that he wants to knock you upside your head, if you're in Afghanistan, you're stuck. In the United States, however, you have the right to kind of report your husband for abuse. You see how that works? So we know that when it comes to women who bang hard for Islam, usually they're not living in a place where Islam is heavily enforced, okay? They're living in Brooklyn. Right? They're living in the Bronx, and they're talking about Allah and the Quran and how much they love it, but they're definitely not living in Afghanistan. Right? They're not living in Iraq. They're not living in places where you make it an acid attack if your face is shown. Okay? So keep that in mind when you do hear women bragging about how glorious Islam is. Back to what she wrote, in addition to the above, greater financial security is assured for women. This is a selling point. This is how you convert women to Islam. You talk about money and you talk about that you'll get a lot of it and all you have to do is sit home. And women, a lot of the times that finesses them to kind of find a Muslim man who owns a gas station. I had a friend who said that she's looking for an Arab who owned a gas station so she could stop working. Yeah, I don't know where she is now, but I remember she used to say that back in the day. And it's like, girl, just go to school and get a job. Go to school, get a career, and get a job, and take care of yourself. Stop relying on people to be of assistance to you. That's not anyone else's job. But if you're fucking lazy, then say that you're fucking lazy. And a lot of these women, especially the ones who brag about not working, you're fucking lazy. And this is why you subscribe to this religion. You don't love Allah. You don't love Allah. Allah does nothing for you. If anything, when you read the Quran, you're on your way to hell if you so do something wrong. If you eat with the wrong hand, there's another thing. They have these jinns are called demons. And there's demons in the toilet, there's demons in the bathroom, there's demons under the bed. And this is how these women live. So when they flex and they brag to you, just know that it's Taqiyyah and they're lying, and they have to lie to make Islam look good. And she wrote, they are entitled to receive marital gifts to keep present and future properties and incomes for their own security. No married woman is required to spend any of her money on the household. She is entitled to full financial support during marriage. Generally, a Muslim woman is guaranteed support in all stages of her life as a daughter, wife, mother, or sister. Yeah, because she's sold off by her dad to the highest bidder. And that's the agreement. Men didn't really have anything to trade other than their daughters. And this is the business of it. He had daughters and he was able to sell his daughters to get what he needed. Instead of him going out and being a man and doing what he has to do to survive, no, he has daughters that he could sell off. And that's what he does. So take what this person is saying and keep that in mind. This person is also saying these additional advantages of women over men are somewhat balanced by the provisions of the inheritance, which allows the male, in most cases, to inherit twice as much as the female. While this means that the male inherits more, he is also responsible financially for other females. Nonsense. Daughters, wives, mothers, and sisters. The female inherits less, but can keep it for all investments and financial security without any legal obligation to spend any part of it, even for her own sustenance. While the Quran does not specify, gender roles for women, modern day Islamic practice often does. This is partially because men and women are sometimes allotted different rights and cultural expectations. Yeah, more bullshit. Regardless, it should be noted that Islam has recognized women as equal human beings and has established their rights and honors for over 1,400 years. More bullshit. 1,400 years, centuries before gender equality had even been recognized in Western countries. As Muslim nations, we still have a ways to go to establish what has been set in the Quran. This could be due to customs and traditional habits used to undermine the rights of women. More and more bullshit. We're going to get to what the Quran says really when we go to the critique of the Quran in the next clip I'm going to show you. There was a recent, before I show you the clips and the other readings, there was a recent podcast where these 3 or 4 Muslim men sat around talking about haram and how the Muslim women are out of control, the makeup is out of control, the cell phone usage is out of control. And these men were just complaining up and down about their wives. And they were saying that, their wives are trash. They're out of control. And again, these men didn't live in a place like Iraq. They were in the United States or in the UK, and they were complaining about Muslim women not having harder restrictions. And this is why a lot of them want to bring Sharia law to these countries where they migrate to. They can easily go back to Iran. They could easily go back to Iraq. They could easily go back to Afghanistan, but they won't because there's no money there. And these guys are looking for money. So you know what the recommendation was? The recommendation was, well, more and more Muslim women should start contributing financially to the household. And this is what you see a lot of the time. When you drive around New York City now and you look at people at the bus stop, these are Muslim women going to work in full hijab. They're not staying home and waiting for their husbands to pay all of the bills. Shit. That doesn't happen in a city like New York City. And New York City, a 1-bedroom apartment is what? $2,600 a month? And that's not including gas. You do get water, you do get heat, but that's not including like your light and your cable and all the other shit that you need to kind of live in the city. You can't survive on one income in these major cities. And a lot of Muslim women are all over New York City banging hard for Islam, but they're not traditional at all. If anything, they're working 2 or 3 jobs to help their husbands pay the bill. And on top of it, your husband has the audacity to see your effort, to see you having children and working and doing what you need to do outside of the home. And then he has this belief that you are inferior to him. Well, by himself, he would not be able to keep anyone afloat. Do you understand that? This is why this religion is bullshit, and no woman should ever fall into it because it's a fucking lie. It's a lie. Men cannot afford right now to live the way they think that they can live if they follow this religion to a T. You cannot afford to. There are no household right now where the man is contributing anything, unless he's a multimillionaire and he has it like that. These Muslim men, they're not multimillionaires. If anything, when you see them in New York City, they're doing Uber. They're doing Uber Eats. They're doing Lyft. They're doing Amazon delivery. They're not making money like that. And women have to help, because a lot of the times when you do see or you go to these college campuses, you will see 100 girls in a hijab in a nursing program. And why is she in a nursing program? Yeah, she's in a nursing program because she has children to feed and she can't rely on her husband. But let her tell the story to idiots who wants to convert. She'll lie to you and say, oh no, I keep all of my money. I don't contribute. It's a lie. They have to lie to make their religion look good. Don't you ever forget that. You can't trust the men and you definitely can't trust the women. If they subscribe to something like Islam, you can't trust her because she's going to tell you that it's a bed of roses. It's the best religion of all time. I love it. I love wearing the hijab. I love not being able to see my food when I eat it. I love bumping into walls because my eyes are completely blacked out. And that's what she's going to tell you. But she may not tell you that if she lives in the United States, because like I said before, the girlies in Queens, the girlies in Manhattan, when they claim that they're Muslim, yeah, they're not wearing the hijab the way you see them wearing the hijab with the Taliban. They're not. They have, like I said before, full beat face. They got an attitude. They got their bellies out under the hijab. They got tight leggings on. They got high heels on. They got red bottoms on. And this is just how they flex in New York City. In New York City, they love Islam because the United States government protects them from their husbands in Islam. So their husbands don't flex the way they would flex if they were in a country on the other side of the world. No, their husbands know you have to obey the laws of the land. This is why so many men from this religion, they want Sharia law to come on with them to their new place of residence. And the reason why they want Sharia law to come to their new place of residence is because in Sharia law, you can backhand your wife anytime she gives you some lip and then go on with your business. And they will lie to you and says that's not true. But look at your screen. This is every single scripture. Well, not every single one, but maybe 14 of them. I think that's enough to keep you up reading at night. And what it says about women in the Quran. Let's look at number 1. It's okay to have 2, 3, or 4 wives, slaves, or free. You can take a slave as your wife. You can have a sex slave. Right? This is why you see so much sex slavery in Islam. They will take an enemy's girls, they'll take an enemy's wives, mothers, or whatever, and they'll make them into sex slaves, and it's perfectly okay for them to do so. Where else did you hear about sex slaves? Yeah, in the Bible. See how that works? All of these religions, all of these books are the same. That's 4:3. Number 2, males are to inherit twice that of females. Number 3, lewd women are to be confined to their houses until death. That's 4:15. Number 4, if any of your women get lewd, cut off their inheritance. That's 4:19. Number 5, for exchanging wives, 4:20. Number 6, don't marry women that are already married unless they're slaves that you could obtain in war. Then it's okay. 4:24. Number 7, if you can't afford to marry free Muslim women, go ahead and marry slaves as long as they're Muslim. 4:25. If your slave wives are guilty of lewdness, punish them half as much as you punish your lewd free wives. 4:25. Number 9, men are in charge of women because Allah made men to be better than women. Women must obey men, and if they refuse, they must be punished. Refuse to have sex with them and beat them into submission. You can beat your wife in Islam. So when these ladies tell you that's not true, they are lying to your fucking face. They're lying to you, and they bank on you not knowing the Quran. And that's what people who are Christians bank on as well. They don't want you to know that the God of the Bible said that it was okay to kind of kill children. No, they don't want you to know that information. They bank on you not having that information because they know that people don't read. They don't like to read. I love reading, but a lot of people don't, which is fine. Also, number 10, don't pray if you are drunk, dirty, or have touched a woman lately, because remember, women are unclean, women are dirty. 4:43. 11, virgins await those who enter paradise. 4:57. Number 12, they invoke in his Allah's stead only females. Number 13, don't bother trying to treat your wives fairly. It's impossible. for 129, and 14, unto the male is the equivalent share of 2 females. And that also goes in court. So if a woman in one of these Islamic nations is raped or assaulted, she can't even go to court on her own because, again, she's not worth anything. She needs another person, another woman to be worth one male who may have assaulted her, right? Yeah. And you can read these scriptures because it's highlighted in blue if you go to the skepticsannotatedbible.org or .com. And when you go to that, it gives you different religious books, and you can just pick the one that you want. This is the Quran, and it'll give you what the Quran says and the bullshit, and it'll give you exactly where you could find it. Because again, if you are a young woman and you don't know this information, they're not going to tell you this information outright. That's why I'm doing this little series. You're not going to learn any of this information by talking to people who subscribe to this religion. They're going to give you daisies, they're going to give you roses, and it's going to be nonsense. And because you're young, they are banking on you not knowing shit. This is why so many young girls get caught up in this religion, because someone older gave them nonsense. And then, 6 months down the line, there's a news article written about them because they were a victim of domestic violence in that religion. And just lastly, I have to say this before I end this video, never really understood why any Black person would subscribe to Islam, considering what the Quran says about Black skin. So let's just get into it, and you could look this up yourself. And we'll just read all of these because it talks about, the appearance of the white face and the appearance of the Black face. So when you do see the appearance of the Black face, it's always something negative, right? And I think Black people should know this, considering that all over Africa, there's so many men, African men, who subscribe to Islam. They're even, cutting off their daughters' genitals because it says to do so in the Quran, right? Because, Muhammad said to do so. So let's look at Pickthall. On the day when some faces will be whitened and some faces will be blackened, and as for those faces had been blackened, it will be sent unto them, disbelieve ye after your profession of belief, the punishment, then taste the punishment for that ye disbelieved. Yusuf Ali or Yusuf Ali, no, it's Yusuf, Ali. On the day when some faces will be lit up with white and some faces will be in the gloom of black, to those whose faces will be black will be said, did ye reject faith after accepting it? Taste the penalty for rejecting faith. Shakir, on the day when some faces shall turn white and some faces shall turn black, then as to those whose faces turn black, did you disbelieve after your believing? Taste therefore your chastisement because of your disbelief. Muhammad, Sarwar, on the day when some faces will become white and others black, God will ask the people with the faces who have become black, why did you give up your faith? Now suffer the torment for your disbelief. So that's just a different series of translations of this scripture where it says black skin is associated with something negative happening. Black skin is associated with disbelief. Black skin is deserving of punishment because of disbelief. And also, I have to mention this as well. This article is called Forgotten Slavery, the Arab Muslim slave trade. And for the life of me, I can never put together why so many Black men are drawn to Islam. But, it makes sense because all men are drawn to Islam. All men are drawn to all religions because they are in power in these religions. But it's so weird how so many Black people, they'll now, especially every Black person in America now is turning their nose up at Christianity. But then they look over and they kind of look at Islam as something that is respected and that they should kind of subscribe to. When you do see Black men converting to a religion, especially like in a place like New York City, they're all Muslim. They're all Muslim. Why are they Muslim? Half of them haven't even picked up a Quran and read one page in it. All they know is that men are in charge and they like that. But I think it's important to talk about the slave trade, the Arab slave trade, and how detrimental it was to the African continent. And let's just read about it. It says the Arab Muslim slave trade, also known as the Trans-Saharan trade or Eastern slave trade, is noted as the longest slave trade, having occurred for more than 1,300 years, while taking millions of Africans away from their continent to work in foreign lands in the most inhumane conditions. And it also says in regards to women, while European merchants were interested in strongly built young men as laborers in their farms, the Arab merchants were more focused on concubinage, capturing women and girls who were turned into sex slaves while living in harems. So high was the demand that the merchants would double the price of female slaves, with the ratio of captured women to men being 3 to 1, right? But here you are seeing so many black women in the United States today, assalamu alaikum. Why? Why? This is your history with this religion. It should be rejected. It also says the practice of castration on black male slaves in the most inhumane manner altered an entire generation, as these men could not reproduce. And I just wanted to leave you all with that. And yeah, I just wanted to leave you all with that.